Greetings, my fellow freedom lotus sovereign thinkers. Thank you for tuning in to LL3 Podcast. My name is Craig, transmitting from the wild, wonderful mountain state, and today's date is Friday, August 20th, 2021. I just found out right now, looks like Australia is going to be doing a big rally around noontime, and I believe it's Sydney. So I'll probably, hopefully you guys could check that out. That's awesome on the whole COVID lockdown. So looks like Dr. Malone has spoke about the dangers of the vaccine, which he was the inventor of the mRNA technology. So these are pro-vaccine. Another pro-vaccine doctor is calling the COVID shot jabs out. He's speaking his mind. So it's very intriguing on what's been happening. It looks like the official narrative is being crumbled. And of course, I read this one article. I don't know the guy's name. What would Jesus wear a mask? It's just more blasphemous rhetoric. Probably carbon copy of Broward County Mayor Stephen Glasser's article. I read it. I'm like laughing my tails off, so come on, like give me a break. More blasphemous, baseless rhetoric from a stooge. And I say that out of respect. Yes, and of course, people are finding out where Joe Biden's at. Of course, somewhere in Delaware. And of course, everyone's still talking about the hostage crisis. And like I said before, years of foreign policy got the United States in this predicament. And even if you study the history of Afghanistan, they were never conquered. And all you got to do is read about it. And the goal, the United States should have left that place a long time ago, not nation building. That's been a big ordeal. And don't get me wrong, it's not just Biden. He's a fall guy, like I said before. Plus, his actions as a career politician to come to foreign policy brought him to this predicament. So he's just another fool in the game, all right, not the actual mastermind. So that's how I look at Biden. And there's a lot of people out there need to start looking. You just need to start calling them out, whether they're Democrat or Republican, because you got your neocons and Republicans are into nation building and imperialism. They're just as liable, so you got to get them all equally. There's no excuses. And man, it looks like Rittenhouse is the prosecuting attorneys want to get his video as evidence, proves he's a cold-blooded killer, which many people aren't buying it. But the question I have, when you have riots, okay, and he was armed, I got a question for that jerk-off. I'm sorry. Prove to me, in the state of Wisconsin, the police are obligated to protect an individual. Please, prove that to me. Okay? Anyone in Wisconsin, all you clowns out there that can't stand Rittenhouse, could you explain to me, by law, are the police obligated to protect a person in Wisconsin? Okay? So instead of shooting your mouths, all claim to be experts, please do that. Ooh, man, and of course, and you got so much ordeals are happening, and I'm just like, just browsing around as usual online, and I was like listening to I'm not crazy big fan of the War Room, but like they got some good content in there as well. Observe responsibly. I'll give some Steve Bannon props at a few things. And they talked about on Revolver.news about the whole FBI setup. It was infiltrating the January 6th riots, which the dingbats want to call it insurrection, which is, I go into the toilet, I find that more bellicose, okay? More bellicose in nature. All right, well, one of the areas I like to, one article I'm gonna read for you folks came out from ZeroHedge.com, and it's pretty cool. It's a good article. And I'm just going to make sure I don't get all the stuff out here. It says here, Oh, yeah, and even one before I go, Irvin Shore looks like there's an arrest warrant for him in D.C. for his participation in the D.C. rally. Oh, my goodness, run to the hills, for speaking his mind, probably in there videotaping, doing his report. Being a reporter can make you an aggressor. All right, so this is what it has to say here. This is what Tyler Druden has to say, and of course, Revolver.news actually shared this link. It says here, FBI shoots down Dem conspiracy theory that January 6th Capitol riots was pre-planned. Came out today, and it says here, many Democratic leaders, including most notably Nancy Pelosi, refused to let go of the notion that January 6th attack on the Capitol was a terror attack on par with 9/11 or the Pulse nightclub shootings. Why? Because they claimed the whole siege was planned and perpetrated by shadowy militia groups like the Oath Keepers working in concert with Republican lawmakers. Dems also blamed Donald Trump for instigating the incident, the supposed reason behind Twitter and Facebook banning his accounts. But according to a scoop from Reuters published Friday, prosecutors who once planned to try to lay charges of sedition, conspiracy, or other serious offenses against members of the Oath Keepers and other militia groups have been stymied by the reality of what actually happened. And now that the first surprisingly stiff jail sentences have been handed down, the FBI has apparently determined that there is a scant evidence to suggest that the events of January 6th resulted from an organized plot, according to a scoop published by Reuters. In other words, it's a repudiation of prosecutors' claim that trespassing plus thought crime equals terrorism. FBI tells Reuters that 95% of these cases are one-offs, and even among the 5% who were more organized, there is still no evidence of a grand scheme to overthrow Congress and install President Trump for a second term. Though federal officials have arrested more than 570 alleged participants, the FBI at this point believes violence was not centrally coordinated by far-right groups or prominent supporters of then-Trump President Donald Trump, according to the sources who have been either directly involved in or briefed regularly on the wide-ranging investigations. 90 to 95% of these are one-off cases, said former senior law enforcement official with knowledge of the investigation. Then you have 5% maybe of these militia groups that were more closely organized, but there was no grand scheme with Roger Stone and Alex Jones and all these people to storm the Capitol to take hostages. But that's not even the most disappointing bit for Pelosi, who's trying to use her January 6th committee to punish GOP colleagues, because the FBI also told Reuters that there is no evidence that Trump or people around him were involved in organizing the unrest. But the FBI has found no evidence that Trump or people directly around him were involved in organizing the violence, according to the four current and former law enforcement officials. The report was specifically cited dirty trickster Roger Stone, who was famously taken into custody by a SWAT team for a perp walk in front of CNN cameras, and InfoWars founder Alex Jones. Stone, a veteran Republican operative and self-described dirty trickster, and Jones, founder of the conspiracy-driven radio show and webcast, are both allies of Trump and have been involved in pro-Trump events in Washington on January 5th, the day before the riot. FBI investigators did not find the cause of protesters, including followers of the far-right Oath Keepers and Proud Boys groups, had aimed to break into the Capitol, but they found no evidence that the groups had serious plans about what to do if they made it inside, the sources said. Finding could also help the 40 or so defendants who belong to militia groups and are facing more serious conspiracy charges. As we first learned a few weeks ago, prosecutors feel they don't have enough evidence to lay charges of seditious conspiracy or use the RICO Act to target militia groups as if they were in an organized criminal gang. But one source said there has been little, if any, recent discussion by senior Justice Department officials of filing charges such as seditious conspiracy to accuse defendants of trying to overthrow the government. They have also opted not to bring racketeering charges often used against organized criminal gangs. Senior lawmakers, have been briefed on the FBI's finding and find them credible, according to Reuters. The ultimate takeaway is this: while some groups may have discussed the rally and attended protests in advance, and while they ultimately may have worked together on the day in question, there is simply no evidence of grand conspiracy headed by a single nefarious ringleader. Not Stone, not Jones, not even Trump. Protesters have filed conspiracy charges against 40 of those defendants, alleging that they engaged in some degree of planning before the attack. They allege that one Proud Boy leader recruited members and urged them to stockpile bulletproof vests and other military-style equipment in weeks before the attack. And on January 6th, sent members forward with a plan to split into groups and make multiple entries to the Capitol. But so far, prosecutors have steered clear of more serious politically loaded charges that sources have been initially discussed by prosecutors as seditious conspiracy or racketeering. The FBI assessment could prove relevant for a congressional investigation that also aims to determine how that day's events were organized and by whom. With seditious conspiracy now off the table, the most serious charge are likely to be assault of an office charges, which carry penalty of up to 20 years in prison. So it looks like, based on this article, they're just trickling down. So they have no merit on sedition charges, which is good. Here's a funny thing about it, because when you watch these videos, I've seen the live feed, and I noticed many people came in, and of course, seeing these citizen journalists really overcame the official narrative, as far as I'm concerned. And there's even video footage of security officers officers letting these people in. They had like these stupid, cheap, two bicycle racks right on the sidewalk, right on the pavement. It didn't make any sense at all. So I'm just laughing so hard because they just really blew us out of proportion, exploited the crap out of it. And you got all these other jackasses that hate Trump. They've all been climaxing and masturbating with the war gods, saying, yeah, we're going to get all those insurrectionists. Yeah, it's on Facebook. And I'm just laughing at them. Okay, this is how far it's going, all right? And many of these individuals in there who are being detained never had a speedy trial, never been arraigned yet. What's taking them so long? Because the whole thing is Eighth Amendment. It's been an Eighth Amendment issue. Okay? And of course, due process and Fifth, Sixth, Eighth Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. So, as far as I'm concerned, the prosecuting team has no merit. That's the question. Of course, some of them may be damage done, but how many of them are FBI informants? Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Okay? How many of them are FBI informants that are involved in this ordeal or instigating? Okay? And how about Ashley Babbitt? What the hell is going on with that? But if you go in there with a stern finger point and yelling, they want to throw your rear in jail, throw the book at you. Ask John Schaefer that and many others. I'm going to say this. This is going to backfire on, it's going to blow back in their faces. It will be another Mauer 7 on steroids. If you study the Mauer 7 case, with the whole siege that happened in Idaho with the BLM, with the Bundys, and they went in there, and there was more people in that team, in that crew, are FBI informants. And of course, the prosecuting team didn't want to get all those witnesses, get all those people testifying, because if they find out they're informants, they're out of work. So they try to make that argument, and the jury told them to stick it, not guilty. So I'm saying this: if any of them go in the case, have a trial, I pray it'll be jury nullification for every single one. Not guilty, not guilty, not guilty, not guilty. Because one thing we know, it blew back in their faces. When you witch hunt one person before he became president and you harassed the crap out of them, it blew back in their faces. Doesn't matter if you like President Trump or not. Witch hunting's for cowards, and all those dinkleberries are in there. They're the seditious. They're seditious. Racketeering demonons. That's all I gotta say. What's your intake? All right, that will be it. I thank everyone for listening. Plus, feel free to download and share us throughout your social media networks.